2005, I planned for 20 people, and 30 showed up. So this time I thought I will expand my horizons. I made folders for 50 people. And you all showed up, and I appreciate you being here. If you didn't get a folder, here's what I'm going to do, though. You'll make sure that you get my email address, and I'll give that out. It's Ownby, O-W-N-B-Y. No, there's no E in there. Ownby, T-O-W-N-B-Y, at mscs.k12.al.us. I'll be glad to shoot you every bit of this in a PDF file for you. Okay, and I'm also going to tell you there's nothing new and original about anything that's in this packet. Somebody said, how did you come and approach this clinic? I approached it as, what do I wish somebody who had told me 18 years ago, my second year of teaching, in 1993, when my band passed district contest for the first time, and I took my little 8th grade band to Troy University, because we had a trip with the high school, because we were going to Six Flags the next day. That's the important part for the kids. To Troy University to go to state contest. And I'm going to tell you, I was not prepared for what happened. That was 1993. How many people here were teaching in 93? How many people that were teaching in 93 did you go to state contest here? That was the year that 17 bands out of the entire state either made a 1 or an overall 1. There was a smattering of 2s, and the rest of us were left to waller in the 3s and 4s. My first year at state contest, I went and I made 3-4-3 on stage, and I mean, I literally, my baton was like this when I brought the kids' horns up for the march. Went into sight reading, came out of sight reading, opened up my score, and honestly, just I wanted to drop dead because I made a 4 in sight reading. And I thought, I thought I knew a lot, and I realized then I knew nothing. Well, what I did was I started coming to these things, and I started hanging out with all the older directors, because I was full of pee and vinegar. That's what I mean. I was the way I was. And I realized real quick, I know nothing. And so I started going down and I started bugging all the old guys I looked up to and respected because I heard their bands and I knew they did well. So that's where this clinic is coming from. There's nothing new in any of this, okay? And my main thing is to get you thinking for sight reading. You got to have a counting system, okay? And it starts day 1 of beginning band. You don't start teaching sight reading 2 weeks before contest. Sight reading skills start day 1 of your beginning band classes. That's how I teach my beginners. Okay, and on the sheet, I listed several different ways of counting systems. You've got the number system. Most of us use traditional number system. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in. You've got the pie game. Pie, apple pie, huckleberry pie, all that. Okay, you've got up and down, foot motion, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. I mean, all the stuff that we use. Okay, the breath impulse system, and we have several directors in our state that use that with their bands, and their bands are tremendous. Okay, they are. Matter of fact, the year that my band played at NBA, I am so glad that my band played first, and then the next day, Jerry Potter's band from Whitesburg Middle School played. Because I heard his band, and my jaw dropped. I thought, holy moly. And Jerry does a great job using that breath impulse system and gets his kids through some wonderful things. And then also the Ed Swada system. And there's a handout in there of the Swada. And I want to say this. Several companies that I called asking for permission to hand out stuff and do stuff, they were not real happy, and they made it real hard to do. I emailed the Ed Swada. He called me back the next day. We had a great 45-minute conversation, and he wanted to make sure. I used the Ed Swada rhythm books with my band. We use the vocabulary charts. We play a F concert pitch, and we start and we count through every way I can think of to count it, and then we come back and we play these just on one pitch all the way through. And he wanted to go through, and I want to give this to you, and it's out there again. I'll email this to anybody that wants it. One thing he wanted me to stress to you is on here it's going to freak some of you out because he has a different system where a whole note is 2, and all he's trying to get the students to think of is what is my breath doing and how long does this note have to be. He also wanted to emphasize that's only to begin with and get them thinking. You always go back to the number system. You always go back to traditional counting. But it's a way to help them understand in beginning band how long the duration of a note is. And I use that. I started looking at all this and realized I use about 4 of these. We use down and ups. We use the pie game. We use the Swada system. And we use traditional numbers in our beginning band classes and in my 7th and 8th grade in our high school classes. We try to find anything we can to help our students be successful. Find what works for you, okay? I've heard the bands with the breath impulse system. I'm just not totally sold that I could abandon what I've always done to do that, but I've heard some great bands do it, okay? So find what works for you in a counting system. Be consistent throughout your program. We noticed about 10 years ago in our program that Pat and I counted some things differently and did some things differently, and it was confusing our kids making the transition. So we said, we got to do what's right for the kids. So we changed completely and came up with a system that works for us. So beginning band through 12th grade, we have a consistent counting system, and we utilize all these different things. So have a counting system. Okay, the second thing, have a plan of attack before you get to the sight reading room. I wish somebody had told me this 18 years ago. I walked in, I mean, am I supposed to look at the score? What am I supposed to talk to my kids about? I mean, I played grade 6 concert band literature. I played in a great jazz band. Nobody prepared me to stand in front of a group and in 7 minutes talk about a chorale and talk about another piece of music. Have a plan of attack. It doesn't just start there. Okay? Every rehearsal that you should do should be well planned. I sight read every day with my 7th and 8th grade kids. It doesn't have to be a complete piece of music. I use a lot of the things from the Kernow. Syncopation builders for developing bands. This is great for bands at all levels. Okay? Scale builders for developing bands. Teaching scales. Putting them together in a way that younger kids can be successful with those. And introducing concepts. Tone builders. We start with this every day. And in tone builders, it does a lot of octave unisons and tuning and making them listen. I teach style. I teach articulations every day using these. Okay, and the other one is rhythm builders. This is the one I'm using right now. And what I'm doing is I'm going in every day. First thing we do is we do our warm-up. As soon as the warm-up's over with, we review scales that we need to know, the things we're working on. Then I immediately go to a new piece of music. Now, a new piece of music may be, like the other day, we just got these out. A new piece of music may be line number 3 in the rhythm builders. It's about 16 measures long. And then I start from there, and I go over exactly what I'm doing in sight reading with that line. Okay, I start. So when I get to sight reading, my kids aren't going to go ballistic and freak out. We've done this every day since January, and we're going to contest in March. Every day. Okay, good. I want you to get this. Look at number 3. Please do not play anything. We go over all the instructions. I'm going to get a little deeper in that in a second. Okay? And I keep setting myself up. Have a plan of attack. Know what you need to accomplish daily, both sight reading and in your rehearsals. Use check sheets. When I was a younger director, I went to somebody's, I took a day off and went and observed somebody's class. And noticed this director had this stuff on his podium, not just his books, his stuff. And I noticed he'd teach and he'd go, and I asked him, what is that? He said, well, I got my lesson plan here, but I've got a check sheet of all the major things I've got to get accomplished that day. And he's checked them all. You know, I would just walk into class and whatever came to mind is what I would teach. And I realized I was just like scattering with a buckshot out there hoping something happened. He had a plan. And I went back and I started really sitting down and organizing my rehearsals that way so that I was more effective. And the more important part is my kids got a lot more and learned more than just how to rote play something. They learned how to understand something. Okay? Plan the pacing of your rehearsal to allow you time. Now, I have a 48-minute class period. 3 minutes at the front for kids to get in, I'm down to 45 minutes. 3 minutes at the end, I'm down to 42 minutes every day. So it's a gauntlet. I mean, we're going hard all the time, but I make time every day to sight read. Okay? Planning in how you transition one activity in your classroom. Now, this is basic classroom stuff. You got to plan, how am I moving from this to this? Your kids need to understand that. They have to know, when we move from this activity to this, we're changing music, this is what's going to happen on a daily basis. We're not wasting time. Okay? Always begin with a plan. And I put on there, if you shoot from the hip, you might get shot. A good friend of mine, Jeff Beach, has another quote that he said, man, you got to use this one. This is a great quote. He said, if you don't have a plan, they will, and you won't like it. My second year teaching, they had a plan. They knew what they were doing. I walked in green as a gourd, and I got knocked down. But you know what I did? I took those tapes home. I took those sheets home. I poured over those sheets. And I also told myself, I will never let this happen again because that wasn't my kid's fault. That was my fault. Because I didn't do my job. Okay? And I poured over that and made sure it didn't happen. And luckily, knock on wood, knock on wood, it hasn't. We've made 2s and 1s in sight reading ever since and done well at state contests, and I've been real pleased with my kids. Okay, begin teaching your students from day one basic concepts used to sight read. Beginning band. We talk about this in beginning band. Okay? We sight read lines in beginning band, and I talk in basic terms what we're going to do. So there's nothing new for my kid. Okay? Consistency is the key. Don't wait till 2 weeks before like some of us do, because we're frantically trying to get through this music. 2 weeks before we go, I got a sight read. And we start we just throw it out there and pray that nothing happens. Plan ahead of time so that you get all that built up to when you're going there. Okay? Remember, everything should be a building block for what you do. We lay one foundation, we work on that, we build, we build. Okay, sight read something daily. Not necessarily if you pick a full piece of music, things, lines from the method book. That's what I'm doing right now. Key signatures. I use the First Chorales for Band by James Swearingen. In there, it gives you a chorale, back page 10, a key signature scaled in that chorale. Number 2, it gives you the harmonic minor of that key. So it's B flat major. Number 2 is G minor harmonic. Number 2 in the back, G minor harmonic scale. Gives you a chance to teach minor scales to your kids too, and how to build melodic and harmonic minor scale. Okay? Something new every day. It doesn't have to be hard, just something new to keep them reading. New key signatures, new rhythm sheets, new time signatures. The vocabulary charts are wonderful. I take a line a day. If I'm not doing the other, I'll put a line, just a chart. We count it, we play it, we clap it, we hiss it, everything I can think of to do. Rhythm sheets for method books, essential elements books are great for those. Write your own exercises. When we went to the UIL system, I saw, I searched UIL, I found what I was going to be responsible for. Well, you know what I did? I sat down with Finale and I wrote exercises for my band using the scales that we were responsible for with the key changes and everything else in there, and we practiced. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have any UIL music I could buy at the time. I didn't know how it was possible. So I went and wrote exercises for my band to do that. And what I found out was I wrote stuff that was a lot harder than what I had to read, but if they could play that scale exercise and do those skips and stay in the key, and then do the key changes and the meter changes, we'd be okay in sight reading because they've already approached it in a little bit different way. Sight read new sections of the music that you're working on. I did that Wednesday. Last thing I did in my band classes, we sight read the end part of the tune we haven't gotten to yet. And we had a plan of attack. We studied it for about a minute. Then we started playing it. And for the most part, the kids were able to get through it. Now, were there sections that were just gosh awful? Yes. But they had enough information starting that they could get all the way through and dig it out for themselves. Teach scales. And I know some people that are friends of mine that don't agree with this. You have to teach scales. Okay, I got friends that I don't teach scales. You have to teach scales. And here's why. Before we went to UIL, I remember the days when the sight reading judge brought stuff with him. My middle school band sight read a chorale in C concert. Had we prepared for C concert? No. Did we prepare every year after that for C concert? Yes. And what made it even more blessed was that the chorale was in C concert, the overture was in A flat concert. Jeff Beach, he had a friend teaching in Tennessee. It was one of the first band directors at Columbia High School. They play in grade 5, grade 6 concert literature. He said they went into sight reading, and he said the guy's talking about it. Oh man, he said, man, I'm looking through this, just reading over rhythmic things and all that. And he said all of a sudden it hit him, and I won't use the verbiage that he used in front of it, but he looked at the key, and then he said, oh my goodness, it's E major concert. Wow. And he said, we hadn't prepared for E major concert. He said, but I can tell you that after that day, guess what we prepared for? E major concert. He said, because we got hit with it. So teach scales. If you teach scales, all the music that I play in my middle school is based on scales. It's based on a key signature. And teach them how to read those two, okay? Teach them how to read the key signature. Because my trombone players are still kind of afflicted. Trombone, what key are we in? B flat? Yeah, B flat. How many flats are there? B flat, B flat. Good. Trombones, what does that mean in second? What is in second position in this line? With a little prodding finally get A natural? Yes. Guess what happens 90% of the time when they get to A? Third position. Guess what I'm going to be responsible for in sight reading? B flat concert, E flat concert, F concert. And the last couple of years, it started in E flat concert, and it changed keys and went to B-flat concert. Guess what my trombone players did not do? They did not change. They're waiting on me to go. And so I realized, okay, idiot, you got to do a better job of teaching how to read. And so we've spent a lot of time in the fall. This is how you read key signatures. And I do this every day with my kids, and they hate it. Okay, and I have to hear it at home. My daughter's in my band. Daddy got a call. Okay, but guess what? They're getting better at it. And my trombone players are finally starting to understand. Now if I even stop, the first script, 2. It doesn't matter if I was asking about key signatures or not, that's your answer 2. But at least we're getting there, okay? Teach kids. Use method books to reinforce and drill rhythms in rest. I found with my band, it's not the rhythms that give us problems. It's the rest that give us problems. Okay? We teach Mr. Waters, whose percussion ensemble played down today, which, by the way, I wasn't just a proud band director. I was a proud dad. My daughter's in that group this year as a freshman. Worked her fanny off to get there. And I just want to tell you, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into those kids. We appreciate you being there. David wanted to tell you that. We appreciate you being there. That was a great crowd for one of our concerts. And just so proud of them. Those kids, he says this, a rest is simply a note that you don't play. And the kids went, huh? He said it still has high knocking note. So it's still a note. So it's just as important. Okay, when we're clapping rhythms in my class, I teach them to miss on the rest. Because I still want them to have motion. That's one, but nothing happened. There's no sound on them. That's still one. And, you know, I said, look, we're all going to look afflicted doing this. So if anybody looks at the window, at least we're all afflicted. Because I'm doing it with them. You know, somebody goes, they're spastic. They can't even clap their hands. Okay? But at least we understand something happens there. I'm also teaching them now, breathe. Every time you got a rest, man, you better take a big old honking breath as quick as you can get one in. And what they've learned is, hey, if I'm breathing in, it's real hard to play. Duh. Okay, so hopefully we're breaking that. So make sure that you reinforce rest as well as the other stuff, okay? Use chorales, of course, teach blend and bounce. Love the Swear Engine book. I asked 25 band directors about 5 years ago, what chorale book are you using when you're beginning, with your junior high band? What chorale book? Just about everyone said, have you looked at that first chorales book? And for middle school and young level bands like double C down, it's a great, great thing because it gives you some great chorale, some great teaching moments in there too. Bruce Pearson's quote, the younger the band, the more rehearsal time that should be devoted to skill building. And I had to realize I'm a skill builder. Okay? I'm not marching my kids outside. Don't ever want to do that. Some of you may have to. And you're in a situation where you do. I just want to tell you, you're my hero. We do one parade a year and we call it the Marching Amoeba. We morph down the street. But we play pretty well. Okay? And that's my main thing, okay? Teach your students the skills they need to succeed. Review is needed to ensure that they've gotten it up here. Review every way you can think of. Okay, I'm lucky. When we redid our band room several years ago, I've got a smart board and I've got a huge screen up behind me. And I've got computer access. I mean, I can pull up stuff like that. I can pull up listening examples. I can pull up other groups. With my 8th grade jazz band now, I can pull up great jazz bands on YouTube and let them watch and listen. I mean, I'm just now learning 3 years after the fact really to utilize this. So anything you can do to help build and help that understanding within each part. Students with developed skills need less rehearsal time to prepare music. If we develop that specific set of skills, we can have less rehearsal time and still get more done because they have a basic, true understanding of what needs to be accomplished, okay? Make sure you consider the ability level of your group when picking literature. I had to tell myself this too. I had a great band one year. They didn't do well. You know why? Because I didn't get them through this piece of music. Well, I did not do a really good job because they, the judges, didn't think I did a real good job doing it. And what it taught me was, God, you were stupid. You let your ego get in the way. You got to pick stuff for your kids. And you got to pick stuff your kids can be successful at, but challenged with. Okay? Yeah, I look at some of that stuff on there and say, man, Festive Overture. With an 8th grade trumpet section. Is there a Williams arrangement of that? We got to write down. Pick so that your kids have a chance to be successful and your kids can also dig some things out of there and push them. I push my kids every year, okay? It's okay to stretch and push your group, just know the limitations. Program music above and below where you normally play, and I've been doing this lately, using the Teaching Music series. I program some things above and below so I can really stretch them, and then I can go back to other things that aren't near as hard, and we can be extremely musical with those also. So program above and below. This all still goes in sight reading, because you're still sight reading every time you do something new with your kids. Teach your students to distinguish, to distinguish what is melody, bass line, and accompaniment parts. This is really important in sight reading. Because, I realized one year I'm saying all this stuff to my kids in sight reading, and I'm realizing it's not registering. All right, right here, the bass line part, this is very important. Make sure you play staccato. And I'm going on, and they're just like, and I realized, crap, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea they've got the bass line. So I specifically start saying, right here, clarinets, you have the melody in this section. You need to make sure that we bring this melody down. We need to do this. All right, this is all accompanied right here. Now, I'm trying to do this in 7 minutes. Now, thank goodness, the level I read, it's possible. For the level some of you read, you are flying through there just trying to get through that. And I know that. And if you teach those set of skills to your kids, guess what? They're going to be doing that anyway. And so that's what this is about. Okay? Verbal systems. It's a sight reading. This revolutionized my life. And it's nothing new. The Essential Elements book a couple of years ago came out with the STAR sight reading guideline. I got posters in my band room. And I decided to take it one step further. I made the sheet. When we sight read something, every kid has this sheet, and it's on colored paper. Okay, yours is probably white. This is proration. Some of the colors changed as we went through because it's just what we have, okay? We have a Nazi that's in charge of all that stuff, so I had to sneak and borrow to get things copied for this, okay? But this is just a simple thing. STAR is one of the ways. It's one I use. It's simple for me. I can remember it. STAR, sharps and flat, and the key signature. We start every time we sight read something. Put that right there. Pick it. Now we're going to sight read this. Okay, good. Let's think about our STARS methods. F, look at your key signature. Look at your sharps and flats in your key. What's sharp? What's flat? What's not? What's natural? We need to know that. T, time signatures and tempo markings. A, accidentals. Check for notes that aren't in the key. And check for notes that take you out of the key in one measure in an accidental, but they put that courtesy accidental back in the next measure to remind you, hey, this is back in the key. Okay? R, rhythms. Okay? Silently count and clap. Signs. S, look for all the signs. Dynamics, articulations, tempo changes, repeats, first and second endings, DSs, DCs. Okay, so some of you are playing stuff that has DSs and DCs, and the kids got to know that stuff. If they have a plan that they use every day, it becomes second nature. When I started doing this, I saw my kids' sight reading really start taking off. And I saw my band start doing a lot better too, because we have an organized way of doing it. Now, I found some others I hadn't heard of. One is PKRSD. And I couldn't pronounce it, so I didn't like it. For some reason. Okay? And I wanted something my kids, I could say stars, and my kids would know what it means. Okay? But it's pulse, key signature, rhythm, style, dynamic. Still covers the same thing. Okay? TKTTRS. I'm not going to try that one. Title, key signature, time signature, tempo, roadmap. What's the roadmap for this piece? It's a good way of saying it. It's just a different way of saying it. Stylistic marker. Okay? Have a plan. Have a plan. Stars works great for me. Okay? It's something my kids can understand. It's something I can remember because I'm stupid. Okay? Ask anybody that knows me. You don't have to raise your hand. Ask anybody that knows me. I'm stupid. I need something I can remember when I'm under the gun, up in front of my band, having to do 7 minutes to get through something. I need something I can pull like that and get with those kids. Okay? A word here. Every time you sight read a line, exercise, or music, we should not only strive for correct rhythms and notes, we should get students to the point where they can also add musical expressions into the mix. Okay? We must also strive to make every piece we play expressive, including sight reading. Still needs to be expressive. It's still music. It's not just notes. It's music. This is also a very important sight reading room. When I was in college, I stayed in the sight reading room when we had to work at college. Bodie Hinton was a sight reading judge. Best experience I could ever have was that. He would listen to a band sight read, and we'd pass everything out. They would leave. He had already sent his scores up, and he'd look at us and say, "Oh, you're the judge. What would you give that band and why?" You know, by the third year, I could answer a little bit. First year, I was just like drooling on the side of my mouth, just happy to be there, you know. And by the third year, I really started listening, and I saw all kinds of stuff. Pat Stegall judges sight reading in Mississippi. He sees all kinds of stuff over there. They had a panel of 4 or 5 judges in the sight reading room. That's a little different than we did. But what's neat is, he said one guy came in, they hand him the score, they have study time while they get back. That guy during his study time, you know what he did? He looked at me and said, I don't see anything here, it's going to be too much for me. I'll just look at it on your own for a minute, I'm going to go do a little study. And instead of studying, you know what he did? He went over and talked to his friend that was a judge and just started jawing. And he got up there, I don't see anything going on. He said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you get lost, I'll yell out the numbers as we go. All right, everybody ready? That was the extent of his instructions in sight reading. Pat said, needless to say, it was a very interesting read of that music. He said, we'd never heard it played that way before. He said, and all the judges, minus his friend, really hit the director hard on the sheet. You've got to do a better job of preparing your kids. He said the next year, totally different concept. Kid paid on that, I see. All right, kids, right, he just started barreling through the piece of music. Okay? Had a plan. He had to work the plan, okay? The UIL sight reading stuff, this stuff was kind of out there, and we really didn't know, you know, you had to kind of dig for it. This is on the website now, okay? And what we did last summer is we took it, and I worked it out so that we know level 1, what band sight reads level 1, level 2, and it tells you on here what you're responsible for. This is not guesswork anymore. It tells you your keys. It tells you what rhythms you're responsible for. It tells you any additional percussion rhythms that are there. You can have your band fully prepared. You should know what's coming up, okay? This is on the ABA website right now. We put that on there for last summer. And it goes step by step. Level 1, class C. F concert, B flat concert, E flat. Maximum on 1 key change, but you're responsible for 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. Okay? We know. Man, when we went to this, I was like, golly, this is like great stuff. I know what to accomplish. I don't have to go and just pull and pull. Okay, I know what to do. And it's that way for every level. Okay, it gives you everything that's there. Use it. Also, we got Gene, who's got all this old sight reading music that we're going to get cataloged and know what we have that we're going to sell. You can buy the stuff from the vendors in here, the old UIL stuff that's already out for publication. I sight read level 2. I have level 1, level 2, and level 3 in my library. We sight read above and below. And we keep things moving out as we get closer in. Why? I want it to be prepared. This is there. It's a great tool. You need to use it, okay? My day rehearsal is 49 minutes. Like I told you, I sight read every day. Okay? When they come in, we have a PowerPoint on the screens. This is what we're doing. First thing every day, number 1, tone building. They know at a certain time, I'm behind the podium, hands come up, we're ready to go. I may have to fuss out a little bit to get them there, but we're ready to go. They know where we're starting, they know where we're heading, and they know what I'm accomplishing. Because I put on there, sight read so-and-so, do this. We're going to read this section of the march. We're going to work this section of it. I mean, they know. So have that plan on there, okay? And I go through kind of what I do with there. We use the STARS thing every day. Why? I want my students to be confident when they go into sight reading. Okay? The sight reading room. Don't panic. This was me first year. Scared to death. If I'd known about the pins, I'd probably had a pair on. I'm not sure if I didn't do that while I was in there. Okay? Students should be familiar with what you're doing and the process so that they don't panic when they get in there. This is something we've done, we're familiar with, we're comfortable with. Okay? Students should enter the room in a disciplined and orderly fashion. You need to go help somebody in sight reading. That's up for debate. There's one group when Bodie was there. I mean, they came gangbusters. He didn't have a good impression when they started. And it didn't get much better once they played. Okay? Okay? All that's there. Talk about how to get in there. Students should adjust their seating to fit the room. It's never like we have exactly like we have it. Get it close as quickly as you can. Okay? Students should place their own music folders under the chair. Why? Because my kids, when we get to our 1 minute time here in a minute after we finish our 7 minutes, we're going to pull our chorale book out and we're going to play a chorale in the key that we play in. We're going to play the 2 scales that we have in there, or 3 scales. We're going to review all that before we play our sight reading. We're going to squeeze as much as we can into a minute that we have to warm up after several minutes. Okay? The adjudicators give special instructions. Now, one thing that we did, and you don't have this in there if I can find it. One thing that we did as a board, so that we're all consistent this year, is we set up some guidelines and procedures for sight reading. This is for the judge, and this is for you. Now, you notice there's some scribble down here on the bottom, because we added some things to it. One thing Mississippi does that we thought was a valid thing, and it's happened before in some places, and not happened in other districts. I walked in one time, the judge said, how you doing? The kids started sitting. He gave me the score and said, you can go over here and start studying. And everybody that sight read in that district, guess what they did? Or that venue, they got about a 2-minute head start studying the score. Now, is that important for me in Class G, Class F band? Yes, but it's even more important for the people in Class A when they don't have enough time to get through the whole thing. They need to know the high note. Okay? This year, one of the directions we're giving the judge from the board is, as soon as the band is settled, please hand the director their score so that they may begin their silent study while you're giving instruction, getting the folders out, and getting ready. Then that way, the director gets up in front of the band, you're more comfortable with what's going on, you know where you're heading, you're not just shooting from the hip. Okay? You know where you're heading when you get in there. And that's important. We have to have a destination in mind. Okay? We think that's going to help. Because it's not about what we as directors know. Sight reading is about what our kids know and what our kids can do. And if I'm more prepared to go in and help my kids, that's going to be a wonderful thing. My kids will be more prepared because I'm more prepared. Hopefully it should help. Okay? Adjudicators give instructions. The assistants will hand out stuff, make any adjustments. 1 year, I tell my kids, if you open your folder and there's a problem with your music, immediately your hand should go up. We were the first band to sight read in the state 1 year. Everything got passed out. All right, everybody open your folders, please. Every hand went up. There was not a piece of music in the folder that was right. My trumpet player had alto sax parts. My alto sax player had tuba parts. We were the first band in the state. Guess what they did? Okay. Would all the trumpet players, anybody that has a trumpet part, would you pass it over to the trumpet section? We took about 15 minutes because they had to get that sorted out. But my kids were taught, if there's a problem, don't panic. Raise your hand. Immediately. Every hand. Of course, I went. This is not starting good. Once we got it all in there, it was really good because the judge, when he told him to pass the trumpet parts over to the trumpet players, he forgot one important instruction. Put it back in the folder. So my kids were going. We got an extra 10 minutes. Nobody else got it. Okay? He didn't say put them up. We did what we were supposed. We did what we were told or not told to do. Okay? We didn't break any rules. Okay? But that's happened a lot of years. Got the wrong part, something gets stuck back in. So tell your kids, raise your hand. You need to know that. You don't want your clarinet player sight reading an E-flat alto saxophone part. That's going to be Chinese. Okay? The adjudicator is going to give you instructions to your band. Please open your folders and remove, because sometimes there's more than one part of it. And remove the following title. And I practice this with my kids. Why? I want them to be familiar. Okay? And then say, is the correct part in your folder? That's very important. You got to have the correct part. Are there any problems with any of the parts? 1 year I had a kid raise his hand because the chorale we had to sight read the tuba part started on F in the staff. It was my 7th grade tuba player. My 2nd year kid. He went, I don't know this note. And I went back there and looked and I went, well, no wonder. And then they really started looking and everything was through the roof. First trumpet players in middle school going up to A's, saxophone players going up to high D's. It was a joyous sight reading experience, I can tell you. Okay? That's why we have UIL now. Only one band director should give instructions during sight reading time. If you're lucky like us, you've got more than one person, only one person can talk, the other ones have to be quiet. Okay? Very simple. The band director, once he's given the time, you may begin. You get 7 minutes. Pace yourself. Practice this. We practice in class with a stopwatch. Pace yourself. I asked the judge, would you please let me know at 4 minutes, at 3 minutes, at 2? I want to know. I want to count down. Okay, I want to know how much time I have left so I can stop and say, if anything, are there any questions? Okay, and the thing I always forget is I forget to talk about phrasing. I'm worried about notes. I'm worried about dynamics. I'm worried about key signatures, articulations. I forget to talk about phrasing. And so I'll tell some kids, if I forget to tell you how I want you to phrase yourself, please stop and say, I go, yes, Mr. Ownby, how would you like us to phrase this piece of music? It's a plan, but it works. And I go, oh yeah, I need to remember. And we talk about phrasing real quick. Okay, right here, this is an 8-measure phrase. Okay, but there's a crescendo at the end of this 8-measure phrase, so I want you to push all the way through. And we talk about that very quickly, if in case I forget, so that we've covered everything. Okay. Once it's all done, use all the time. Use all your time. My middle school band, we hiss, we clap, we dance if it helps. Okay? John Cooper does something, never heard of it, works for John. A judge had a problem with it last year. I don't know if I necessarily have. His kids blow air into the horn and move their vowels and move their stuff. And what it does, rhythmically, everybody can hear the other parts when he's going through the piece. Well, the judge stopped him. And John said, I wasn't about to argue and waste my 7 minutes. So I said, okay, just finger. What we do is we hiss. We hiss and finger on. Everybody hisses their part. Now, I have trouble with middle school band because I said, all right, let's everybody hiss. What happens? And I stop. No, Helen. You know, no. Why? Because are we doing it together? We have to do everything together. Okay? So we stop and make sure that we're doing it together. We hiss, we finger, we hiss dynamics, we let it swell, we let it die away. We do all the stuff while fingers are moving, slides are moving, so they're thinking through this stuff, okay? All right, 7 minutes is over with. You get 1 minute that you can do a warm-up. You cannot play anything on the sight reading sheet. That's important. That's a big number. Okay? I tell my kids, get your folder, take out the chorale book, let's play chorale number 3, B-flat concert. Ready? We play the chorale. I have time left. I play the other scales associated with it. Okay? You have a minute to do whatever it is you want to do with your band to prepare them to play. Okay? Once this is done, put that back up, goes back under the chair, and you'll sight read the selected piece. Okay? Once all that's finished, tell your kids, you're still being judged. You're still being judged. You're not finished until the door hits the last person on the fan and going out. Okay? Great sight reading story. 1 year, trumpet section, a lot like it is this year in my band. It's young, very young. I got a lot of 7th graders. 2 8th graders, the rest of them 14 7th graders. 4 of those started this year. They're young. I mean, they're digging, but it's deer in the headlights sometimes. Sight reading, same thing. Had a trumpet section like that. We went through, told the kids, whatever happens, you cannot panic. We just have to keep plowing. All right, trumpets right here. If you're looking at measure 15. For 8 measures, you've got the melody. Trumpets, let's kiss that. Let's finger through that. We did it, and they were like, yeah. Okay, we played the little chorale part at the beginning. We got to the fast section. It must have been broke. And I'm looking, and this is the look. They freaked out. Now, to the rest of the band's honor, they didn't. So for 8 measures, we had the best accompaniment. And once I realized the one the trumpet player going to play, I worked the accompaniment. You know? And I brought the next group in with the melody at the next number. The judge looked at me. I'm fuming. I'm red as I'm thinking, the David Spencer's band. I was ready to kill somebody at this point. You know, I'm thinking, okay, they're kids, and they froze. Judge looks at me and he went, kind of froze up on you, didn't it? Yes, sir, they did. You know, want to kill somebody, but yeah, it was true. And luckily, the rest of it was good enough where that 8 measures didn't kill us. Okay, he gave us a 2, and I smiled that we got out of there alive with a 2. Okay, because my kids, for the most part, did a great job. Okay. Students should exit the room in a disciplined and orderly manner. This is especially important true for middle school drummers. They've still got sticks in their hands. We're almost, and they're starting, whacking people going out the door. Okay? Remind your kids of all this stuff. Okay? Remind your kids of all this stuff. Okay? Sight reading time, you use your study time, however you need to use it, but have a plan. Know what you're going to do before you get up there. Know what you're going to do, okay? What you can't do during that study time, you can't make any musical sounds on an instrument. Okay? According to our bylaws, you can't make any musical sounds. Students may not talk to one another. Now, what I tell my kids, if you see something that's real important in your part, point it to the person next to you. Because really the only talking that should be going on is what the director is doing to teach, and then at the end, do you have a question? And the kid raises their hand to ask the question. It's orderly. It's not chaotic. And I can't stand chaos. Okay, Keith was in my band. He knows. I cannot stand chaos. It's orderly. It gives me a way to interact and get the questions that be answered, okay? And then at the very end, I put the excerpt from what's in there about sight reading from the handbook, okay? So all this, there's nothing earth-shattering about anything I've talked about today. Except you have to have a plan of attack when you walk in. And it needs to start not 2 weeks forward. If you don't have a plan of attack right now, Monday when you start your class, you better have a plan of attack. Because Monday, you start preparing your kids, not just for MPA or not just for contests, you're preparing your kids for skills they're going to have to be great musicians. Okay? I've been lucky enough to go around and do honor bands in different places and all that. We've got some great bands in this state. We've got some people in this state who have forgotten more about band directing than I've ever really done. And none of this is mine. This is all getting down and talking to Mike Holmes, who forgot more about middle school band than I'll ever know. A person I highly respect, and I've heard his bands, and he's adjudicated my band and given me great comment. It's going and talking to these people. It's bugging Glenn Spiller to death. It's bugging Tommy Brandon to death after my band plays and we're on lunch break, sitting and talking to these guys. Going and having coffee somewhere with somebody. Went out with a good friend of mine last night, Eric Kirkman, sit and laugh, and we talked about band, and talked about things we can all do to help our programs. We can share with one another. We're not in competition with one another, y'all. We're here to help. In our area, I know our band directors, and our band directors know they can pick up the phone at any time and call. Hey, do you have it? Hey, can you come over? We're having an after-school rehearsal. Our band directors in our 2 counties are wonderful. Our district band directors are wonderful about calling and helping each other. We're here to help. That's why on there I have both my phone numbers. I gave you my cell phone number. I gave you my office number. Goes straight to my office at school. I gave you my email address. Okay? If I don't know an answer, I'll be the first one to tell you. I don't know, but I'm going to help you find an answer to that. Okay? Have a plan of attack every day you walk into your room. And what's going to happen is your kids are going to be successful because of it. I tell my kids all the time, I don't care what people think about me. I do care what people think about you. And I'll go to the wall for my kids. I mean, I'll go to the wall for my band. I will fight tooth and nail for my band program. Okay? Because I love those kids. I love those kids. And you need to give your kids everything that you have to help them be successful. Okay? You listen to these bands that play at the clinic, I'm amazed every year. Because I'm thinking the year that I did it, I got off the phone and immediately looked at James Ed Champion, who was right beside me in the conference we were at, and I went, what have I done? I have to play a concert in January in front of band directors. Because you know what I used to do? I used to sit in there and go, I just tell you my band's good. And then I had to do it. I had to put my money where my mouth was. And you know what? I learned a whole lot. That I learned, man, these guys put in a lot of hours, a lot of time doing this. Okay, so any of you that play, I'll tell you how much I respect the fact you're willing to come out and put your neck on the line and say, well, I heard Gene's band a couple years ago. Man, it was just awesome. And I think he trashed most of that music and then put his district contest music out after that. I heard he hardly did anything he did here, and he went to district contest a couple of 3 weeks later with totally different music. And I'm in awe of that. I'm just a middle school band director who wants my kids to have a set of skills that they can use for their entire life. Okay, and that's what I want to accomplish here today. Okay, and I promise you, if you have a question, email anybody that did not get a packet and wants the information. I'll be glad to shoot you the information email. If you'll email me back, I promise you next week you'll have it. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Because there's a lot of people in here a lot smarter than I am. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain any of your questions. Yes, sir?
As far as the sight reading room, I know it says that you can't play anything on the sheet. And I know this might sound like a dumb question, but are you allowed to play at least the starting pitch before you actually play it? So you can't.
That's it. No. You're gone. No, not the way that our handbook is written. No.
Okay.
Once you're playing, they take a breath, and there you go. But I promise you, it can't be any worse than John McCombs was telling me about the group he taught at the Indian Reservation in Mississippi. And he said, we went through our sight reading stuff, and he said, we went through, and he said, we started. He said, man, first note, and I was like, yeah. He said, man, the kids play. He said, 4 measures later, kids start dropping out. He said, about halfway through the song, I got one little trombone player. He said, I stopped and went, we're at 25. Stop. 42. And he said, I just turned around and looked at the judge and went, he said, I worked all the stuff with them. He said, but when they got there, it was just like, woo, off the cliff. Okay? They're kids. You never know what's going to happen. I'm a middle school band director. I start them and I hold on. You know, sometimes you just never know what's going to happen with them. Okay? But can you do that? No. You can hiss, you can clap, you can sing. You know? Anything you can do to help those kids be successful is the main thing. You just can't play a musical instrument. Okay? The only thing that can is the timpani can tune. That is in there. The timpani can get its pitch and tune. Okay. Anything else? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
After that situation with the air fingers thing, did they ever say whether you could or could not?
That was an individual judge's thing. Our bylaws don't say anything about that. If I was judging sight reading, would I have a problem with somebody doing that? No. To me, it's not that much different than me hissing rhythms. What he does it for is so they hear their fingers popping and they hear the rhythmic movement of the music. And do I think that's a very valid thing to do? Yes. Are they going to play a note while they're doing it? No, they don't set their officer to play a note. And he practices with them not to do that. That was an individual. He said, I've done this for years. Only time a judge has ever seen anything. He said, but I'm not going to waste the rest of my time doing it. I'm not going to argue with the judge. Okay, good. We're just going with this. So it's going to be up to the judges. And that's what we're trying to do with this sight reading guideline. We're trying to give our judges so that we're all consistent with what we do from district to district and an MPA from MPA. So we're trying to be as consistent as physically possible. Any other questions? Thank you for being here. Okay, I'm honored that you came today.